The Dominicans, Washington Heights, our history here in America. Incredible, but guess what? It's not looked at all. One of the first immigrants was a Dominican, by the way. No one talks about that. Instead, they talk about, oh my god, you the party person, que lo que, and it's just like, buddy.
So he goes, let's call them pajamas, because they wear those head things. That's exactly.
Yeah, being a part of the African diaspora, I want to say, is also, it has nothing to do with your skin color, truthfully. It's all about culturally where you are. Some people are white passing, some people are really dark, some people are really white, some people are my complexion, some are a little darker, some are a little lighter. Such a wide range. So why not display that?
Hello, my name is Swaiba Shabazz. I'm a Pakistani American woman, and to the average eye, I might seem like a brown woman or Arab or Spanish. These are the things I've been told that I appear as.
And to go into racism, in my experience, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel as if my identity is very misunderstood. And I feel like many of the issues that Dominicans face and our character and our culture are just too overgeneralized or stereotyped to death. Straight up. I say I'm Dominican not to not acknowledge my blackness, but to go because it, but rather I say I'm Dominican to cover all of my identity because I'm more than just black. I'm of a Caribbean country. I am Latino. I am an American. And that's just something that I just wouldn't be able to express if I just said I were just black. That's why I say I'm Dominican primarily. Not only that, but in America too, unlike in the island nations, which I've experienced, identity here works very differently. Many of my Dominican colleagues back on the island, we just say we're Dominican because we're all of the same appearances, we're all of the same background. But here in America, it gets quite complex. Ideas of intersectionality, race, even gender come into play, and that really, I'm not trying to say that the West doesn't understand intersectionality completely, but I feel like it's something that's extremely misunderstood. I come in here in America, I tell people I'm Dominican, they usually only focus on one aspect of my identity, the Latino aspect. But when I mention I'm black, both my Dominican family and people, as well as the many Americans, they kind of are in disbelief. They're like, oh, how are you Latino, but you're also black? And then I go into the other parts and like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's kind of as if it's too much for people to handle. And as a result, my identity, I feel like, is truly misunderstood. Not only that, but the history of my people and like how we're portrayed in media is racist. It's just so miscued. I remember in SVA, actually, the School of Visual Arts, a professor tried to use what happened to my country and our history as a way to justify racism not ending, or how racism exists in many forms. But I feel like statements like that are just so misinformed because, for one, you forget how my country, for example, got to where it is. We were colonized by the Spanish. Not only that, but our nation, our neighbors, Haiti, colonized by the French. We had two countries that were forever now separated because of colonization. And as
Okay. So we're gonna get straight into it, right? Here are two stories from my life, one as a child and one as an adult, that was racist and stereotypical, right? So when I was a child, I grew up on a block where I had friends of all different cultures, and there was one white boy that was actually my neighbor, my exact neighbor. But we were all really cool with each other. We played all types of games, sports, video games. One day, we were playing Manhunt, And when we played Manhunt, we would split up into 2 groups. So what happened was we did boys versus girls. Now he was with the boys and I was with the girls, and we were kind of like in 2 different areas, but I kind of overheard them talking. And the white boy, he was trying to figure out a code word for our team, for the girl team. So on this team is me, who is a Trinidadian, Caribbean, South Asian woman, right? My friend who's Guyanese, also Caribbean, darker skin. And my other friend, Jessica, who was Puerto Rican. So he goes, oh, let's call them Punjabis. You know, because they wear those head things. That's exactly what he did, right? And I overheard this, and I got upset. So I stopped what we were doing, and I went up to him and the other boys. And mind you, he's the only white person there, because the other boys were also people of color. And I go, first of all, we're not Punjabi, because we weren't. My family is born Muslim, non-practicing. They didn't practice so hard. So was my friend Aaliyah's family. They were also Islamic. And I believe Jessica's family was Christian. But none of us were Punjabi. None of us were Sikh, which are the cultures that wear the head wraps that he's talking about, because he wasn't even talking about the traditional head wrap of Islamic culture, the hijab. He wasn't talking about a hijab. I just remember getting really pissed off, because at this point I was a child, but I knew that there was a problem, because I knew that he didn't know what he was talking about. And I went up to him and I was like, yeah, that's not who we are, so you're gonna have to figure out a different code word for that. And then I just remember leaving. I remember the game was over after that, because I made like a big scene about it. But it pissed me the fuck off. It pissed me off. Because instead of, you know, trying to understand or ask a question, or maybe just come up with a code word that had nothing to do with race and culture, that was all he could think of. And as a child, I just remember feeling like angry at him for not trying to know better, right? We were both children. We were the same age. We were around like 8 years old, 8 to 10, maybe 11 at most. So then the second experience, right? The second experience was with older white women. I was in the middle of filming an audio like podcast with them, and one of the girls was my friend that I know, and the other girl was her friend. Now her friend, right, said something a little that took me back. My friend is like, oh, tell her about your name and where your name comes from, because my last name is an Arabic word and it means prophet or messenger, and it's in the Quran. And before I could even say anything, she jumps to making a joke, and the joke was, oh, what's so, like, basically she was like, what, your name's a slave name? Because she thought she was trying to make a joke, but also it was super stereotypical, it was super racist. And I just remember looking, and I just blankly said, no, it's not actually. And I proceeded to tell the story. And that one took me back, because we're in such a new time. Where now as adults we should have even more respect and even more hesitation to say things like that, but clearly that's not what we're seeing in the world. It's still very much so alive.
I want to share 2 events quickly. One was with this black female, actually, who you would, that the reason why I share this is because sometimes people think that racism doesn't exist in colored communities, like people of color can't do it to people of color, but they can. So that's one of the reasons I want to first share this one. And then this girl, she asked me if I knew any terrorists, and I was like, what? You know, randomly just like turned around. She sat in front of me in my Spanish class, and I was like, no. And then she's like, oh, but aren't you Muslim? And I said yes. And she's like, then aren't you guys terrorists? Don't you know terrorists? So yeah, appalling, very uncalled for. I have no idea to this day like what was going through her mind. What did she think she was actually trying to get at? But I think that was racism. And I also found that to be very ignorant. Then recently, I'm in the UK right now. I walked in with two of my white friends, and we went to a supermarket where this man, stranger, probably 60-year-old white man, or maybe 50 something, when he saw us leave the store, he just decided that somehow it was his role to come and reprimand us for being too loud in the supermarket. There's slight more that was going on, but nonetheless, his problem with us was that we were too loud. He goes like, shut up, what are you, some Indian or something like that? And then I was like, excuse me, because clearly I'm Pakistani. Yeah, so trying to charge back at us, especially at me, and saying that go back. You know, I'm, you know, basically saying I'm Indian, I don't know English, I don't know how to speak. And then when I called him racist, he's like, I'm not racist, I have Indian friends or a wife or something. And I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
But the last question is, what do you love? And I can tell you this much. I love everything about being a person of color. I love that I could be in the sun. I love that. I love the music, and I love the food. The food is probably the things that I love the most. Growing up with curry and roti and kalori and a lot of fruit, you know, growing up with being exposed to seasoning and flavors that are from all over the world.
Next is what I love about being Dominican. Honestly, just everything, the whole experience is lovely. As mentioned, you know, when you have so many aspects to who you are as a person, so many aspects to your culture that is just so rich. Jesus Christ. I was blessed with these black curls from the African diaspora, with a language from a Western nation that, although colonized it, we were able to, you know, take that language and make it into our own version with our own dialect. And I think that's beautiful right there. We took something that was of the West and made it our own thing.
Last question. What do I love about being brown, since I'm brown? I think what I love is not just arrested in being brown, but also is arrested in realizing that as a brown female, I am constantly discovering ways of having a confident voice that is consistent and does not feel terrified because of the constant violence I see against Black and brown communities. So to not lose hope, and also to never ever ever say that I will take it, despite the evidence being that you know, the communities are being targeted, killed, and at such a fast rate too, you know.